What's up, everybody? I'm back. Pat tried to take my job. He couldn't do it. Well, he did it. He did it very well. And we're going to talk about how he did later in the episode with the remaining 2021 new schedule that we're ramping out. But, Pat, I'm back in the driver's seat today. You have the day
Yes,
off,
you are.
quote unquote. What's going on, man? It's good to see you again.
Good seeing you, man. First day back. I know you've been working like crazy. Today was my first day back to work. The benefits of working at a private institution such as Hofstra. But yeah, busy day. Not surprising. So I'm glad I'm able to end the day talking to you, looking at your gorgeous face. Look at that face, everybody. Such a handsome devil he is.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I'm happy we're doing this because you've wanted to do this episode for what, like a week and a half now? And I just kept saying, it's maybe later.
it's just, what we're going to be talking about is something that's very big in the world of baseball, considering not too many free agent or big trade chips have fallen. You kind of hope that this was the start of it, and it puts another team in the back seat of what we think they're going to do going forward. They're a team that is up and coming. But now you kind of wonder what they're going to be doing going forward.
Yeah. So I was going to start with housekeeping stuff, but I think we're just going to do it ass backwards and do housekeeping last because I think that's more exciting for everyone.
Yeah, and we're unconventional. That's what makes the end of the bench different.
Yeah, and the housekeeping stuff is like really important. So if for some reason you guys don't want to listen to the whole episode, you better listen to the last 5 to 10 minutes because it's super important. A lot of big news happening for the listeners as well as me and Pat. So it's good stuff. So let's do chronological order. So Blake Snell traded from the Rays after, I don't know, was he like embarrassed in the World Series just being taken out for no fucking reason? Was that
I feel like he's had a problem with the Rays front office and how they've been treating him and the running of, the like trade pieces and all that ever since the Tommy Pham got traded to the San Diego last year. I don't know if you remember that. He was live streaming and he was pissed. He's like, we traded Pham for some slapdick prospect. And now here he is, so much time later going back to San Diego for a couple of well-known guys, but then maybe, one guy who some may consider a slapdick prospect. So it's crazy how everything comes full circle.
Yeah.
But let's just discuss how huge this trade was for the Padres, a team that definitely needed some new starting pitching, some new blood. They have Dinelson Lamet and Chris Paddock going forward to young arms. Lamet had a great year before his injury. Paddock, you kind of hope that he steps in and be's that front of the rotation guy that the Padres hope to see him. They also traded for Mike Clevenger last year. Unfortunately, he's going to miss 2021 because of Tommy John. So they kind of needed to get, a big name veteran. So, it's crazy to say he's a veteran because he's, 29 years old or whatever it is. But he was the ace. Yeah, he was the ace of that staff, Cy Young winner. He's been one of the better pitchers in the American League the last few years. And he's going to be headlining that rotation going forward, outside of one other guy, which we will discuss. But I'm not surprised the Rays traded him. They're trying to shed some contract money. They don't have the money or don't want to spend. They're trying to get rid of Kiermaier. Him and Snell alone were the two guys who pretty much took over a majority of that payroll going forward. So now they just want to dump those contracts and start, basically from square one. But with the Rays the last few years, even a square one with them, they could still shock a lot of people and still, compete in the AL East, which is kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. First, the prospects that they got for Blake Snell. I'm not a prospect guy because, there's enough baseball players like in the world that like I can't bother with prospects unless they're like Yankee prospects. So like, how good are we talking for like the Rays haul for Blake Snell? I think they got like one like pretty well regarded at least.
All right. So basically the big piece that they got back is Luis Patino, who's actually MLB.com's number 23 prospect in all of baseball. He's a young gunslinger who they hope will be somewhat of a threat in the rotation this year. I mean, he may have an innings limit because he's so young. They may use him more as like a guy out of the pen, quote unquote, because they also do the opener. So it's interesting to see what they do with him and see how they can go about with him. The other prospect that most people probably know is the catcher, Francisco Mejia. Many Padres fans. He was in that deal too. Many Padres fans believe that he was going to be the next big thing behind the plate. It seems that a guy like Austin Nola has kind of taken over. I believe it's Austin Nola who's their catcher. I could be wrong. He's kind of taken and run with that position. So those would probably be the two biggest names. The other two guys, Cole Wilcox, another right-handed pitcher. Apparently, a lot of scouts are high on him. They could see the Rays, doing something with him, possibly putting him in the bullpen. And then a catcher, Blake Hunt. Personally, I don't know too much about him. The big two that I knew was Patino and Mejia. Yeah.
All right, so they did well. So like my next point on this trade ties into like a bigger conversation that we're gonna have when we go over the Darvish trade. But you said something interesting. I mean, you said that Blake Snell will be the guy in San Diego, like as their ace. I don't know. I guess like for this year he will be, but like Clevenger when he comes back, he's the ace, right? I guess
I would
depending
think
on how he reacts to the.
You know what? No, in my honest opinion, the guy who I would say is the ace is probably going to be Snell because he has that hardware that the others don't. And Darvish, which we'll discuss, was a finalist this past year, which is huge. But he unfortunately was beat out by Trevor Bauer, who had an insane year. So in my opinion, I would say the ace of that staff right now is actually Blake Snell. I mean, if anything, it's a 1 and a 1A with Snell and Darvish. But I would probably put Snell ahead of him right now because he's younger. He's coming off several good seasons. The big thing is he has that Cy Young. So I would put him as 1 and a guy like Darvish as 1A.
Pat, like when last year and this ties in more to Darvish as well, but like when Mookie Betts was traded and you wrote an article for the underbench.com, I think it was like pretty close to around this time because I think I edited it while I was in an Uber home from my Harlem office. So that had to be like around this time. But anyway, I digress. And I think in that article, because I think I agreed with it, you said that this is not like a great thing for baseball, that like the Red Sox had to trade Mookie Betts because they couldn't pay him despite being in a fairly large market. Do you kind of look at the Blake Snell trade as like kind of the same thing, but like the reverse? Because like Blake Snell has a very easily manageable contract, especially given like his talent level. Because even at Blake Snell's floor, he's worth the contract. And then at his ceiling, given that he is a Cy Young winner, he's worth well beyond the contract that he has. So do you think it's bad for, I don't want to say bad for baseball, it's probably a little too strong, but do you think it's like troublesome that the Rays felt they had to trade him?
Yes. Because this goes back to teams saying that they can't afford or really don't want to pay for some of these guys. And a team like the Rays that already doesn't have a high payroll is already trying to cut salary. That's, I think, is a problem. It's basically saying that the owners are not looking to pay. I mean, they signed Kiermaier, they signed Snell to these big contracts, trying to get those prime years out of them, which in a sense they did, but now they still are on the hook for the back end of these deals, or for a guy like Snell, I think he's got 3 years left. And now they're saying, especially after coming off a World Series appearance, now they're saying, all right, we want to get rid of these guys. So it's scary in a way that it kind of goes along with what we as fans think, that owners just simply don't want to pay. At least these smaller market, like the Rays or these other small market teams. It's scarier when the big market teams don't want to do it, but it's still a little bit of an issue. When owners cry poor, even after a COVID season. I'm sure they still made some. I mean, they took a loss, obviously, but let's not go ahead and say that they're broke.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays definitely took a loss, but like they don't draw it in Tampa anyway.
So yeah, they're generally low in attendance anyways.
Yeah, so like how affected were they? Because I think they usually do pretty well on like TV and radio. So like I don't know, but like what you said is like the other part of it is like you just came off a World Series if you're the Rays and if you're one of the few Rays fans out there, and you lose Charlie Morton, who basically said I want to pitch in Tampa, and then you trade Blake Snell, who's under control for like 3 more years at like $10 to $13 million, I think it is, a year, which is extremely manageable. And now there's news you want to shop Kiermaier, who's like the heart and soul of your team almost, probably, right? Like, I don't know. Like, as happy as you are as a Padre fan, like, you're probably not that happy as a Rays fan. But then on the flip side, everything the Rays do seems to turn to gold. So, like, maybe Rays fans are a little more like optimistic and like laissez-faire about it. But like, if I was a Rays fan, I'd be pissed. Absolutely.
Oh, I'd absolutely be pissed too. I mean, the haul that you got back is young guys you think are going to be here for the years to come. But now the question remains is like, let's say these guys are good. They do work, and then they get signed to a contract extension like Kiermaier did, like Snell did, and then you only get 2 years out of them, and then the Rays go ahead and kind of press the reset button altogether again. It seems as if it's almost like an ongoing thing with so many teams. Maybe not so many teams, but at least with a team like the Rays that they keep trying to go back to square one, even though that the last several years they've been very good. I don't like the idea that so many teams or owners think that like I said, they can't pay this money. We know that they can, and it's kind of scary, I guess, that they decided that the 2 guys that had to go this year were Snell and Kiermaier. Like you said, like heart and soul at the back. He's probably going to go though, because they're pushing him. Because especially you look at the market for guys like Jackie Bradley Jr. or George Springer. If teams don't want to pay the money, which of course many teams are not going to want to, considering how big of a contract Springer is asking for, and you look at a guy like Jackie Bradley Jr., who is probably in the same ballpark in terms of production with Kevin Kiermaier, maybe a little bit of a better hitter. Teams may not want to sign him and rather just go ahead and trade a couple prospects or low-tier prospects. Just that means they have to take on Kiermaier and his contract, which probably would maybe a little less than what Jackie Bradley Jr. might end up getting on the open market. So,
no, that's true. I just think it's like tough. Like it's great, like on one hand, because like the Padres are, they're in California, but like San Diego's a smaller market than LA, and they seem, and we're gonna touch on Darvish next, like they seem like at least past 2 off seasons, like they're in on everyone. Like they'll spend whatever
they're going for it.
They can. Yeah. And
they're going for it. I mean,
you would like the Rays to do that too, considering they were literally just there 5 minutes ago.
Well, I think, like you said, California and Florida, the 2 completely different markets. Even though San Diego is not necessarily considered a big market team, it is still California. You're going to draw more people in a city like San Diego than you would Tampa. I think MLB knows and Tampa knows that their success lies within player development and trading for or getting these prospects, developing them, and then building it into a winner. The problem is when they extend a guy like Snell or like Kiermaier, and they get not even halfway through that contract extension, and they decided they want to jump ship on them. I mean, I think that's a problem. But in terms of the Padres, yes, they're trying to be in on everybody pretty much. And they kind of have to be. I mean, someone's got to dethrone the Dodgers. It's basically been the Dodgers division for so many years now. I can't even put together how many straight years they've won the West. I mean, even with all these moves, I mean, we'll discuss a little bit more. I think the Dodgers are still the favorite. On paper, the Padres are insane, but Dodgers just won the World Series, and in my eyes, Until someone knocks them off, they're going to be the team to beat. I mean, but the Padres are definitely going to be pushing for that NL West title.
Yeah. So let's go to their other move. I mean, almost like, especially nowadays, like when the baseball season was like completely dead. Basically, back-to-back days, they get Blake Snell, and then they go out and be like, "Oh, we're not done. We're gonna get fucking Yu Darvish now." So, I mean, I don't know if you were surprised. Like, I was surprised because I didn't like think the Padres pitching was like all that far away that they needed to get two big name guys.
I'm not surprised that they got decent, two big names, whether it be, I figured it was probably going to be through trade. I don't know if they necessarily would have signed a guy like, I don't think they were going to be able to sign a guy like Bauer. Maybe they could have gone after a Noda Rizzi type or a Paxton type or something like that. So I'm not surprised that they made moves to add to their starting pitching, because as many teams know, starting pitching now is what ultimately can help win you a championship.
Yep.
But I'm surprised at how fast both of these acquisitions occurred. Like you said, they happened within like 24 hours of each other, if not less. So that's what shocked me more than anything. But the two guys that they decided to go and get are, Cy Young, perennial Cy Young winners, one being the Cy Young winner, Darvish, the finalist. That does put them in a scary position for, the teams like the Dodgers. And I mean, I don't know how much of a fight the Diamondbacks and the Rockies and then would have really put up, but it's scary. Even if you think the Dodgers are going to win the West, then you still have to think about the wild card and the Padres. I think in a lot of people's minds, the Padres have some sort of wild card spot already locked up, just based on these two moves that they did. I mean, they already have the offense, which we know Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to become one of the best players in the game, I think. You have Manny Machado, who is an MVP finalist. Eric Hosmer, who's still a very good first baseman on the other side of the field. And then Jake Cronenworth, who was their Rookie of the Year candidate this year. I think he's going to be a big piece for them going forward. So it's going to be an interesting battle out in the NL West this year.
Yeah, and I think like it's fun to talk about Yu Darvish for a little, and like how you said, like maybe he's going to be the ace of the staff. It's probably going to be Snell, but like maybe Darvish. Like when I think of Yu Darvish, and I don't really know why I think this, Pat. I think it may have been like because of the one postseason he had. Because didn't he like blow up in like with the Dodgers one postseason?
Well, I think that year was the 2017 World Series, and we all know what happened there. So I don't know if a lot of people will now be like, maybe it wasn't all on him, with everything given. But I believe it was that 2017 postseason. At least 2017 World Series is what is the knock on his postseason numbers, I would say.
Yeah, he pitched 3 innings and had a 21.6 ERA in the World Series.
I think it was that Game 7 that really killed it, where the Astros, I think, took a very early lead and ultimately won that game.
So obviously where I was going with that is that I don't think of Yu Darvish as like an ace, frontline guy. I think like he's a really good number 2 and not a number 1, but I think that's kind of like splitting hairs anyway when you talk about constructing a pitching staff. I mean, you probably want like a really good number 2 who could be a number 1 on a bad team. I think that's probably the best way to go.
I think how a lot of people saw the Indians rotation a few years ago, where it was Bauer, Clevenger, a young Bieber, before he really kind of came out of nowhere and became the ace that he is. And
that's the model now.
Carlos Carrasco. Like those 4 guys, I think had collectively one of the best seasons a pitching rotation could get a few years ago. I think the Padres are going to be kind of in that sort of ballpark. So, I mean, none of those guys you would have considered. I don't know. Most people probably would have considered Bauer the ace. Other people may have said Clevenger. I think this Padres rotation is going to be very similar. Like some people may think Darvish is the ace, other Snell. Some people may come out of left field and be like, nah, like Lamet's the ace. Or what about
he
Paddock?
Was very good last year. Wasn't he? Lamet?
Darvish or Lamet was, but he ended up he got injured, which is kind of what hurt him. down the stretch, and it hurt the Padres when it came to the playoffs. You know, they could have definitely used him, but now think about, you get hopefully a full healthy season of him. Add Paddock, you have Snell, you have Darvish. If you get to a playoff series, you know, you've got 4 guys that you'd be able to choose from, and I think any one of them should be able to, you know, put up numbers when you need them. I mean, you got guys who have postseason experience now too. So
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like the Indians model. It's something, and all right. So I didn't tell you I was going to bring this up. And whenever I bring the Mets up, Pat, we go on a tangent. You're not allowed to not allowed.
I won't go too far off base with it. So say what you got to say.
I will literally mute, stop recording, and you won't know. You'll just be talking.
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut then.
When the Padres made this trade, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Your boy, Stevie Cohen, went on Twitter, was like, this is why you build like a, you know, like strong farm system so you can make the trade, or he said something like that. Remember seeing that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you think it's really fucking necessary for him to take that broad like swipe at Brody and the Wilpons on Twitter? Because that's what I took it as.
Necessary? No, probably not. But I think he's understanding. As a Met fan, you do love it. I think, you know, as a unbiased fan, which I like to believe I am. Others may say I'm not, but I like to think I am when it comes to baseball as a whole. I think he was more expressing what all of baseball really knew, and that was the Mets depleted their farm system for a 4th place finish.
Well, yeah,
and I mean, that's, I think, what he was really. He's basically saying that, you know, maybe we would have been able to trade for some of these guys, but we don't have enough prospects to give up. You know, we have like a handful of guys that we don't want to. You know, our farm system is bare enough as it is. Let's not trade away these 2 or 3 guys that we know we can get a haul in. But if they go, then we're even farther back in terms of minor league development than we were previously. So is it necessary for him to say that? No, but
cutting off.
I was ending it there.
So I agree with you.
You asked the question.
I know. I agree with you. I think he was making more of just a general statement about baseball and like the importance of a farm system. I just think maybe because I'm from New York and like I'm, you know, close with you and a bunch of other Met fans, that I immediately got all I just took it as like he was taking a shot at Brody, and I laughed. I enjoyed it. But I was like, is this really necessary? Oh, maybe he wasn't even doing it. Maybe I'm just being a bad guy. But
he's probably doing it.
Probably. I mean, if he even runs his Twitter, you know. Whatever.
Oh, he absolutely does. I think he absolutely does. You can kind of get a sense of how someone tweets, like a celebrity tweets, and if it's like maybe their social media team or if it's them specifically. Yeah. I feel like he's a guy who probably is tweeting it on his own because, I mean, what else has he got to do other than really sit back and count the money that his firm makes?
Not a whole lot. All right, so let's go back to Darvish. So the prospects that the Cubs got, I went on social media like after the trade, and I saw a lot of Cub fans not happy. Did you get that sense too?
Yeah. To be honest, I looked up all of these prospects, and I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have the names written down for them right now. But I looked most of them up, and I don't remember seeing any of them anywhere near the top of the Padres prospect lists. And yeah, you gave up Darvish and Victor Caratini, who's a very good major league player. I mean, he was the backup to Wilson Contreras at catcher, but
Darvish's, like,
he may be Darvish's personal. I did see it was what was it? I think Darvish texted Caratini after the trade. He goes, "Dude, you're going with me," or something like that. And Caratini's like, "What?" Like, I don't think he had any idea. It was something like that. It was kind of funny, the exchange that I saw.
Well, there are worse places for him to go than San Diego.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're going from Chicago, cold,
in the winter,
whatever it may be, to
in the winter.
Yeah. And then, but now you go to San Diego, where I'm sure it's sunny 7 days a week, anyways. So
yes, it is.
But yeah, I didn't see too much about the prospect. But it doesn't look like they were any top of the line guys. And you'd figure for a Darvish, who just had a Cy Young probable season, that you get at least one fairly good prospect. I mean, you gave up Mejia and Patino For Snell. Granted, he probably has more years of control, not costing as much as what Darvish would be. But you hope to get something back in return there. And they didn't, it seems.
Yeah, I heard that the prospects they got are extremely young. And I think that they are all estimated to come up in the same year. Which to me, it brought me back to like, and I don't know if this is even accurate, but like, didn't like Addison Russell and Baez and Bryant all come up like around the same time?
Pretty much.
So they're kind of like in my brain, they're just trying to replicate that essentially.
Yeah. I mean, and it worked. I mean, but I don't know if any of these guys were on the level. I don't know if any of these guys are on the level or are anticipated to be on the level that Bryant was coming up. You know, we all remember the hype how what it was with him coming up. Baez, you know, he was seen as, you know, a defensive wizard who's got a strong bat. I don't think any of these prospects are have a comp to him. I mean, I don't really want to discuss Addison Russell too much with everything that occurred with him. But yes, you are right. I think all these guys did come up in the same time. But I mean, the Cubs are trying to rebuild. They have a problem going forward. You know, they have a lot of guys who will be free agents in the coming years. Bryant, Rizzo, Schwarber, Baez. Like, they have to figure out what to do going forward. They're not going to be able to pay all these guys, so they got to have some sort of farm system that they can start developing. So, like the Rays, they kind of press the reset button and go from there. Yeah, which sucks because the Cubs, they had a roster that should have won them or at least gotten them close to multiple World Series, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it kind of fell apart on them. Like, we've seen so many teams in the past that were set up for a multiple year run at World Series, and they were like one and dones. So that kind of sucks. I mean, as a Cub fan, I mean, obviously you're happy after a 100+ year drought of winning a World Series, but they had you set up for so many years, and they were only be able to squeak one World Series out of it. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned Schwarber. He's already a free agent because they didn't tender him.
That's correct.
This offseason. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it brings me back to, like, you know, my Mookie Betts point again. Like, I guess it kind of sucks if you're a Cubs fan, major market, and you got to let a guy like Yu Darvish go. You get him for guys who are not even close to being ready. You know, when you have a pretty good roster if Darvish stays on it. I mean, even without Darvish, I think you still have a pretty decent roster. And you have to let him go because you essentially can't pay him. And the reason why you have guys so far away is because you don't have to pay them for probably another, I don't know, 8 years, a decade.
I feel like that Hayward contract is really hamstringing them too.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely has not lived up to that contract at all. I mean,
yeah. But that's their only like big one though, isn't it, pal? Like, it's like wild to me that they.
I don't know the specifics of most of their players' contracts. I think I'm gonna look it up because
I thought of it. I was like, I don't know like if any of because all their guys, their key guys, are still so young that like I didn't even think that they got like paid yet. And they really didn't. I mean, Hayward, his base.
I don't think so.
21 mil. Chris Bryant's next at 18.6. He's in arbitration. I mean, like, there's not that big of a payroll for a big market team.
Most of their big contracts were arbitration. The big free agent one was Hayward, with his 8-year, 184 mil. His average salary is about 23 mil a year. After him, the next big name was probably be Chris Bryant. Craig Kimbrell, they're still on the hook for with like 14 million. So yeah, they're not paying a lot of guys big money, but that's the problem because now you got several of them who are going to be free agents who are going to look are anticipated to get the big money contract.
Yeah. So let's wrap this part up. So the Rays traded Blake Snell, their ace. The Cubs traded Darvish. Was he technically their ace, or did they have Hendricks be their ace?
No,
Darvish was
I think
we can call him
over the last several years there probably was Hendricks, but Darvish was their top guy this year, I believe.
That's fine. If you're a fan of either team, who are you most mad? Are you most mad if you're a Rays fan, or most mad if you're a Cubs fan?
Probably the Rays because they just came off the World Series appearance.
It's interesting.
So and you feel like you've had this huge leap. You're able to take down the Yankees. You beat out the Red Sox, who weren't good this year, but still.
Yeah.
The up and coming Toronto team, you feel like you're still ahead of all of them. You get to this World Series appearance, and now, okay, we got to trade your best pitcher. You lost your other best pitcher to free agency, and you're more than likely going to trade your starting center fielder. So I feel like that's a really big step back. And as a Rays fan, yeah, I'm excited to see guys like Glass now and Meadows, and Brendan McKay, and there's a couple other young pitchers they hope come back. I think one of them was Brett Honeywell.
Yeah.
But I'm more upset the fact that you got here, you weren't able to win the championship, but you're right there on the cusp. But now you go ahead and take this huge giant step backwards.
That's fair. I think I'm more mad if I am a Cubs fan. Because if I'm a Rays fan, like, as like shitty as it is, I think I would trust my organization more. Because like if you're a Cubs fan, like Theo's not there anymore. So who are you believing? Like who do you believe in to rebuild the team? Like I don't know anything about their, front office. Maybe they have like a really good person who filled Theo's spot. I know he's not going to be as good as Theo Epstein right away, right? Like that's fair.
Right.
And the Cubs have a new voice of their organization, like on the TV side too. So if you're a Cubs fan, your whole world is upside down right now. Theo's gone. You got a new voice on the TV, and you don't have Yu Darvish. Like fuck.
But like going back, I mean, I did say this was a organization that set up a team to win multiple championships. At the very least, though, they did get the one, and I think that's probably why I wouldn't be able to see too much sympathy for Cubs fans as I would Rays fans. They got the World Series. They ended that drought. The Rays, however, keep coming closer and closer and closer, and they came within 2 games, I think, of a World Series championship. And now, that hook came from the side of the stage and pulled them right back. The Yankees I think the Yankees are going to continue to get better. The Red Sox hopefully are going to spend a little bit of money. The Blue Jays are going to be a team that may blow everybody out of the water this year. Who knows, depending on what they do. But they have a young core coming up. So I think this probably hurts them a lot more than I would say with Cubs fans.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion,
it's fair. I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Like let me say, I don't feel bad if Cub fans are really mad because they did win, fairly recently.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If I was a Cub fan, I would still be more pissed than if I was a Rays fan because I think I can trust the Rays a little more right now because they just find shit and make it work.
They develop very well.
Yeah, if Theo was still there with the Cubs, I think my answer may change. But since he's not there, I think that's why I go more mad as a Cubs fan. So you think the Padres win the division, or you still think it's the Dodgers?
I have a really hard time saying that the Padres win when the Dodgers have been as good as they have been, and I don't think they have too many big subtractions going to next year. You still have Betts, you still have Bellinger, Muncy's still there. Seager, I don't know if they're gonna think about doing anything with him yet. They lost Justin Turner for now. They may re-sign him. I don't know. Will Smith has been a big name. This is all on the offensive side I'm just speaking of. Gavin Lux is still going to come up and hopefully do something. Not to mention the Dodgers may still be looking to trade for certain guys. Maybe they want to look at Cleveland for Lindor. Maybe they want to have a conversation with Colorado for Arenado, because Colorado wants to get that contract off the books. Who knows? And then their pitching is still, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw. Dustin May is going to come up, or who's going to be successful. So I'd still have to give it to the Dodgers until they prove me otherwise that they're not the best team in the West right now. On paper, the Padres, without a doubt, got so much better, but let's see what they can do on the field first.
Yeah, I still think that's the matchup in this next season
absolutely.
A shit ton of eyeballs, for sure. And I guess that kind of sucks for us being on the East Coast.
Again, yeah, I would love to watch more Padres games if it means I get to see more of Fernando Tatis Jr. because he just has this, like everyone says, he's got so much swagger, and he's a guy you kind of want baseball fans to see. Us being on the East Coast, we probably don't get a chance to see it much, if at all. Same thing when we want to see Mike Trout.
Yeah. I mean, if you're baseball, like I think the schedule is probably already made, but like you got to do something to try to get them like weekend series so that like the whole world can, I mean, well, can the East Coast stay up, till 1 a.m. like a few days a month? Like, yeah, they can, but put them on the Friday, Saturday, and just make it easier for everyone and bring more eyeballs to your product and your young stars. All right, Pat, we got to do it. Yesterday, I got an alert. I almost dropped my phone. I was so surprised. I don't know why it happened. I mean, Adam Gase was 9-23 as the Jets head coach or something like that. It's about as amazing 2 years as you could have. Literally the best coach.
Dude, Hall of Fame worthy, man.
I mean, we fire him, and now Alabama is linked to him for OC. Bill Belichick is saying he did a great job. Maybe he could go to New England and be on his staff or something. I don't know. Maybe get him like a cup of water or a new sweatshirt. Like, I don't know. But yeah, Adam Gase shocked the world and got fired by the Jets.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I mean, I can only I've been saying it for months. Our listeners know they saw my beautiful Fire Gase background a few months ago. It's an honestly, just, I'm not even saying bittersweet because it's just a sweet ending. Actually, no, I will say bittersweet because the Jets lost themselves the first overall pick. They lost themselves Trevor Lawrence. But finally, the Gase disaster is over. I did have a feeling that he was going to get a job somewhere, but that man should never be a head coach in the NFL ever again. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But he does seem like a guy who's somehow going to scrap and claw his way into a possible quarterbacks or God help the team that does it, an offensive coordinator position.
He definitely will be a running back coach. That's for sure.
No. But thank goodness he is gone. The Jets have already begun reaching out to many other teams, seeing if they can go ahead and talk to some coaches. I think the big name, Eric Bieniemy. I can't pronounce his last name. Bieniemy. Coordinator for the Chiefs. I think he is the guy. He's so highly touted by Andy Reid and others throughout the NFL. They say that he's primed and ready to be a head coach. I think he's a guy that they need to strongly look at, and I would not hate that hiring. I mean, I know for a fact I'm not going to hate that hiring because it's not Adam Gase. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's like the big name on everyone's mind. Like, I think like even though Ryan Day, the coach of Ohio State, says like he's not like leaving Ohio State, I think they're still going to make that call and be like, well, if we get you, we'll draft Fields number 2 overall, and you could just grow together. But we'll do like an actual episode on this, like as like once the season is over and like the full list of names really comes out, because the Jets, anyone who's available to be hired, the Jets will reach out to. Like, there's no stone will be left unturned. But since you brought up Bieniemy, if I am Eric Bieniemy, I go to Andy Reid and whoever the GM is of the Chiefs, and I go, listen, Andy Reid is not a young man. He signed Patrick Mahomes for the next decade. And if I was him, I would try to work out like a Josh McDaniels situation where I'm the coach in waiting. Because even when Mahomes' contract runs out, he's still in his prime. So he can be like, I want to be paid a little better and I want to be coach in waiting. And if I was him, I would do that. And I would stay in Kansas City for the rest of Pat Mahomes' career and have a very nice, easy, stressless life. I would not become a head coach for the fucking New York Jets.
In his defense, yes. I mean, I wouldn't blame him one bit. I mean, as a Jet fan, that's what I want to see. But if he basically comes straight out and says, no disrespect, but I have the best player in football at the helm for 10 years. And I'm basically, like you said, coaching waiting. I don't want to leave. I mean, for all we know, Kansas City could be like, yeah, you can go ahead and listen to these offers, do what you think. But remember, like you said, Reed is probably gone in a few years. We need someone else to take the torch and run with Pat and everyone. He probably is that guy. So for all we know, he has had that conversation with the Chiefs. But the only way we'll know for sure is if he is offered this Jets job and decides not to take it. I think if that's the case, if he denies any kind of head coaching position, then I think we all know straight up that he has something worked out with Kansas City that he's going to be the next head coach.
Yeah, I mean, because these jobs are, there's only 32 of them, right? So a lot of people say it's, or 30 or whatever, 30 something.
32.
Yeah, okay. I get the sports mixed up. So they'll say, well, you got to take it. It's like once in a lifetime, but like I don't think it'll be once in a lifetime for Eric Bieniemy. I think as long as he's linked to Patrick Mahomes, he will be a candidate every single year. Kind of like, Stan Van Gundy is a candidate for every single NBA job, even though he hasn't been on the sideline in like 20 years. I think he'll just find his way into interviews. I think eventually maybe he would take one. I don't think it's going to be the Jet one. Like, I think if the Chargers went to him and say you could have Justin Herbert, like,
fair.
I mean, and then you could sell like living in California instead of Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah.
It's Missouri.
Woo! That was a close one. Like maybe, but like I'm not leaving Pat Mahomes for the Jets. Like I'm not.
That's fair.
I think like if you're an honest Jet fan, why would you?
Well, let's think about this.
Like,
how many head coaching positions are now available? You have the Jets, you have the Jags. They fired Doug Marrone. Anthony Lynn's out of the Chargers. Is there any other head coach that has been on the chopping block? Like, does Doug Peterson?
There's
maybe
some rumors now that Doug Peterson, but like I don't know. I don't know if he makes that. I don't know if he makes the call he made on Sunday night if he's not like promised to be back next year. To be honest. Yeah, other than that, like I don't know. I think those are the big ones, and I think the Chargers is because of Justin Herbert more attractive than the Jets. The Jaguars.
That probably is arguably the most attractive. What's it called? But I mean, maybe a head coach would be like, you know what, I kind of want to go for the Jags or the Jets because they're in a rebuilding year. They name me head coach. I have say in terms of who we want to draft.
Well, I mean, the Jaguars have 11 draft picks and Trevor Lawrence waiting for whoever that
I mean, they're getting Trevor Lawrence. I mean, maybe now that they know that, it's like, how can I pass up the opportunity to, coach what many believe is the next Peyton Manning, Yeah,
and I think Urban Meyer is linked there, if I saw that correctly.
I saw that too.
And I mean, whatever, more power to Urban Meyer.
Well, let's say Urban Meyer leaves. Well, I doubt. Actually, not even going to
Urban Meyer's
think
nowhere.
about it.
He's just a person at this point. He's not coaching anywhere.
Oh, I thought he was still at Florida for some reason.
No.
Because I was going to say, like, it probably didn't make any sense for them to do it, but Florida also has no, I don't know if he's kind of
hasn't been at Florida in a while.
It shows how much I actually pay attention to college football.
And he was Florida, then Ohio State, and then he retired. I think because of the
shows how much I pay attention to college football, right? Yeah. So my listeners, I apologize for that, but as we all know by now, my specialty is baseball, and just shitting on the Jets.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have a better episode about it, like later, when it's not like the day after Adam Gase is fired. I mean, I think it's like amazing packs to listen to like New York sports radio for most of the day today, and it's like it's not even a story. Like the Jets fired
because everyone knew it was going to happen. So like, why put it as front page news?
But it's
back page news.
It's not even like the second segment of the fucking day. It's like the third segment. I'm like, it's like I agree with it, wholeheartedly agree with it. That's not important. But it's wild that a football coach in New York got fired, and it's like the third thing on people's minds. Like I
think the build up to it was so much more fascinating and entertaining than the actual action of him being let go. I mean, every week it's like, when's Gase getting fired? When's Gase getting fired? Now that he's fired and be like, all right, cool. So we don't even have to talk about it anymore. What's there to talk about? He's finally gone. Now we can't rip on him anymore. So I would make it, headlining news at this point.
It's fair. It's fair. It is headlining news, Pat. What's coming up on the end of the bench show in 2021, especially this month. All right. So where do we want to start? So obviously last week, as I said at the top, or was it? Yeah, last week, Pat. Pat hosted his first episode ever, and I think he did a great job.
Thank you, sir.
Received well. I got numerous texts from close listeners that he did great. It's something that you did not know, but I was planning on giving you more control over that anyway, so it worked out. And you will be hosting part of our NFL playoff previews with Perkowski. So you guys are going to be doing the AFC. The first one is going to come out Thursday, because you guys are recording on a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So we're going to do these for every round. So Pat and Chris will be doing the AFC. I guess like if there's any scheduling issues, like I can jump in for Chris or whatever, we could work it out. And then Kevin McBride and I, Kevin is another fan favorite, excellent football brain that we have on. We will be doing the NFC. So every single round, we will be doing an NFL preview for each matchup, which is very similar to what we did for hockey in the playoffs as well. When it is the Super Bowl, we will do a monster 4-person episode. Pat, Perkowski, Kevin, and myself. Pat and Perkowski will be the lawyers, the debaters, if you will, for the AFC side. Me and Kevin will represent the NFC side, and we're going to make our case for whatever team is representing each conference as to why they will win the Super Bowl, what they'll have to do, et cetera, et cetera. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Pat, I think you're going to do a great job, as always, hosting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the confidence.
Yeah, you'll be great. You'll be great. So right there, that's 3 episodes this week. Probably 3 next week. Probably 3 episodes minimum a week for the whole month. Next month. Each month.
Yep.
Each week. Whatever. So that's what, 12?
Playoff football, big.
Playoff football. And then, you know how much Cassidy means to me, Pat. Literally best friend in the world. He is probably my most requested guest on the show. Like when I don't have him on for like a month or like a month and a half, everyone's like, are you guys fighting? Like, why isn't Cassidy coming? Like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? So Cassidy will be a recurring weekly spot, similar to how Pat is. And those episodes will come out every single week for the most part, unless we have scheduling difficulties, of course. So that means at minimum, less all the NFL previews and week previews that we'll do, we'll have at least 2 episodes every single week, barring scheduling issues, for the entire year. So we're going to look at over 100 episodes this year. And that is our 2021. If I am not running around like a madman with my head cut off during tax and audit season, it will be a fucking miracle, but it will be worth it because it'll just be fucking worth it. It's sports. I mean,
it's going to be this is a big year. All right. For the end of the bench for me personally, as I tie the knot to my beautiful fiance, Caitlin, in September. So it's going to be a busy year, to say the least, and I'm looking forward to every second of it.
Yep, it'll be a busy year. So, Pat, I know last year I made a New Year's resolution to listen to more podcasts. So, listeners, if someone else made that same New Year's resolution, like one of your friends who don't listen to us for some reason, you should tell them, hey, listen to the End of the Bench show and add it to your podcast listener thing, whatever, app, whatever you want to call it, because it is going to be a fucking ride in 2021, and I am very excited for it. Pat, I know you're excited for it. Cassidy is thrilled beyond belief for it, and Kevin and Chris very excited for the NFL previews. Think they'll be good. So with that, Pat, I will, I guess, see you on Wednesday night when I edit the episode that you did with Prokowski. But until then, talk to you later, man.
Take care, bud.